All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is our second installment of Career Day. Basically, it's where we show you with different people different jobs you can do if you're looking for a career path, if you're stuck in life, if you're young, if you're a child, and you have aspirations to get into a career. Basically, what we're talking about is animating. Today we have Justin, my personal friend, who is in video game animating. So, welcome, Justin.
Hello, Spencer, my personal friend. How are you?
Hello, my personal friend. The name of the segment is called Career Day.
Okay.
You're here to inspire the children of the world to become animators. I told you I'm not. I told you I'm not good at intros. I'm not good at intros.
No, it was fine. You
That's
covered all
fine.
the bases.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, if you're a child looking for a career,
Good job. Yeah. Or if you're out there right now, laid off and you want to find a new career path and you love animating or cartoons or video games. I mean, animating is a wide variety of things, right? It's not just even like we were just talking about Code Miko. Like that's another path
totally
you could even go toward. So
for
let's
sure,
start.
man. It's
Sorry, man, I cut you off. Go ahead.
oh yeah, for sure. What do you want me to start with?
Oh no, so let's just introduce yourself and just talk about yourself a little bit.
Sure. So hi, I'm Justin. I'm your personal friend.
Hi, personal friend.
I currently work at Ubisoft Toronto as a technical animator, which is a little bit different than actually animating. Now there's when you get into video game animation, there's a lot of technical stuff behind the scenes that happens, and I'm someone who kind of deals with that stuff in the context of animation now. So what that means is like there's a lot of things that the programmers do, and then we have sort of the art team, which is the animators in my case, and I'm sort of the bridge between them in a sense. There's some technical, things that need to be done to set up animation in the game that the animators shouldn't have to worry about, and that the programmers aren't really involved with. So someone like me, that's their responsibility to put them all together in the game, basically.
That's awesome.
So that's what I do now. Yeah.
That's really exciting. Okay, so let's take it all the way back. Growing up as a kid, growing up as a young kid, did you have aspirations? Did you have a dream job or something you wanted to be when you were really young? I'm talking like 5 years old. Like you have a fireman or a vet.
5 years old, I think. So I lived on a farm growing up.
Right.
And I had a pony. So I think when I was 5, I wanted to be a professional pony rider or something like that.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, or maybe a professional. We also had tree forts. I think I maybe wanted to be a professional tree fort builder and liver inner, maybe.
That's awesome.
Probably just wanted to go around living in tree forts and get paid for it. Yeah.
There is actually a guy who does that for a job.
Really?
There is a job. Yeah, he builds tree houses professionally for a living. He has a show on Nature Channel, and he builds amazing tree houses. So, I mean, unfortunately, you didn't follow your dream, but you have an awesome job. So let's dig into that.
Yeah, well, it's good to know the backup's out there still.
Yeah, backup's still out there.
If I ever want to get back to it, So I don't know. When I was young, I don't know if I really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I think firefighter was one of them once. It was definitely vet at some point. At one point, my mom took me to this veterinary clinic, and they showed us sort of what goes on behind the scenes there. I was really young, and they showed us actually there was like they were doing surgery on a cat or something, and they just showed me what they were doing, which is kind of crazy. I think I was too young to even process that, but I was so interested in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I think had to do with growing up on a farm and being around animals all the time. But eventually, I guess I just grew out of that or whatever, and I went on to elementary school and all that. There was no way I knew what I wanted to do until at least somewhere in high school, because I went to a drama school and I was a drama kid for all of high school.
Right.
And
so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think I wanted to be an actor at some point in my life.
I
think all through high school, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. And if I'm not an actor, I'm going to be a super successful and rich director for sure. It's like one of those two things definitely are going to happen. And then when it came time to apply to university, I didn't get into any programs related to that. So I was like, okay, give it another few years and then I'll get there.
So what were you like in high school? What kind of kid were you in high school? Yeah, were you messy kid, very organized? Like,
So, like, what kind of student was I, or what kind
Right.
of person was I?
What kind of student were you?
What kind of student was I? I was definitely one that procrastinated a lot.
Right.
Unfortunately, I wasn't a bad student. I always did my work. I didn't skip classes and go play marbles out in baseball diamond. But that's what all the kids were doing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't do that. I was like, I got my work done, but I definitely all throughout my educational career. I would procrastinate and not get things done until the last minute.
Right.
But I would still actually get it done and make sure I passed with decent grades and everything. So, yeah. Also a bit of a goof, right? I think I enjoyed goofing off a lot and maybe too much,
Right.
which sort of carried throughout at least university for me. So, yeah.
So, at what point did you decide to focus on animating and like apply to schools for animation?
Right. Yeah. So I still didn't know I wanted to do that until I was almost done university, actually.
What were you
So,
university for?
so I got into university for a program called New Media,
Okay.
which kind of means everything that's like digital art related. You know, I had some web design classes, I had some small animation classes and video editing classes and
Right.
actual classes about how to build interactive robots. It had like a little bit of everything was sort of the idea of the program, which is really cool because it
That's
gave me
really cool.
exposure to all of these things. Yeah. And one of the classes was animation. And it was in my final year, my second last year, I think. I did an animation class and I was like,
Right.
oh shit, this is kind of fun. I kind of like this a lot, actually. I kind of feel like I'm a natural. I wasn't a natural at it. Animation is really hard.
Right.
I thought I was good because I made a bouncing ball, which everyone did in the class. But I really liked it. And then I started to get like kind of more and more obsessed with it, and I started reading tons of books about it. There's very popular Disney books and animation books that everyone tells you to read, and I got them and I read them and I was like, oh man, I'm such a good animator now. I read these books. I still wasn't a good animator. But at that point I knew I found something that stuck with me, right?
Right.
Because web design didn't really stick with me, video editing didn't really stick with me, and all these other things, but animation, I knew I liked it.
Yeah.
And I also knew I liked video games at that time, and I felt like, oh man, this is maybe where I can make these things like merge and be a career for me.
That's awesome.
Which is, I think, when I started to have an actual goal. It wasn't until the end of university that I kind of knew what I wanted to aim myself at.
So which university was that?
That was Ryerson University,
Ryerson, yeah.
Downtown. Yeah. You might know Will Farquharson. He went there too, actually.
I do. Yeah.
We went
Have
there
a
at about
career
the
day
same
on
time.
him.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone go back, check that video out. He's now a sports producer for Sportsnet. He's really awesome as well. His interview was amazing. So,
Yeah.
in university, did you? So after you, I guess after you graduated, or at what point did you have to go to another program, or did you get into animation from this program?
No. So I wasn't good enough to get a job out of university for sure.
Okay.
When it came to animation.
Right.
What happened was at a certain point, my Maya teacher at Ryerson was like, hey, you kind of have a knack for this. It seems like you're really into it. You
Right.
should try going to Sheridan. And Sheridan, at the time, it's kind of changed now, but at the time, Sheridan was kind of known as the computer animation school in Ontario or Southern Ontario. It was very reputable and very well known. He's like, you should just try going to Sheridan. And I was like, oh, come on, I don't even have a chance. It's like, that's only the best of the best get into that school.
Right.
The program is kind of like a master's program, but it's a graduate program. So you have to have a degree to get into it, and you have to be really talented. I had one of those things. I had the degree, right? So what happened was I put my portfolio together, and it was okay. It didn't really compare to a lot of the other people. But my Maya instructor knew the Sheridan instructor. And because of that, I think I had a lucky opportunity where he kind of recommended me to the Sheridan professor. And he's like,
That's awesome.
You know what? If you say he's good, we're going to help you. We're going to give him a chance. So I ended up getting into Sheridan.
Nice.
Which is what really started to like put my career on course. Because that was like a 1 year intense learn everything about being an animator program.
Oh, so only 1 year course.
Yeah, it was 1 year after university. I did another year at Sheridan with a great group of people because everyone there was super passionate about it the same way I was about
That's
animation
awesome.
the way I was. So it was an amazing experience because everyone was just like really and was really motivated, and it was hard to get into. So everyone was like, they felt happy and lucky to be there,
Right.
right? So it was so cool. I made so many great connections and learned so much from everyone there. I think that was the kind of the tipping point for me and like getting my career off the ground. So yeah.
So in graduating Sheridan, you had to do a final project, right?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did. So this is the I think I can show it if you want. I can put
I would
it on
love.
and we can
I would
talk
love to
about it
watch
a
it.
little bit.
I'm down.
So what I'm gonna say is bear in mind that we were still learning how to do computer animation, and
Right.
the whole goal of the Sheridan program was to make your own short film by the end of it. By the end of this year, you will learn enough about it to make a film. So this is like learn everything about making a animated short film and put it together. So it's not going to look great. Is this mirrored? Is it
Maybe yeah.
backwards?
Maybe yeah.
Oh well, whatever. Um, and this is kind of what my final project was, right? So this was me about 1 year into knowing that I want to be an animator, trying to
Right.
put something together. They taught us how to model all of these things and how to do the lighting and how to render it. I was not great at modeling, which is why this guy's head is shaped like a giant egg and his body is a sausage. But it was still a great learning experience to learn how to make all of this happen.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, this was like countless 16-hour days with all my classmates. We're all in the lab constantly working on this stuff, trying to put a short film together. It was so grueling and stressful, but amazing because by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I still want to keep doing this. Like,
Yeah.
even though this was one of the hardest things I've had to do and, was partially successful with it. I don't know, arguably successful with it. It was so hard, but I knew I wanted to keep doing it.
Right.
So that's when I realized like I made the right choice, right? It's
So a
taking this
lot.
leap to go to
Yeah.
Sheridan was a big decision, but by the end of it, I knew that it was the right one. So
So did you get to watch everyone else's as well?
yeah, we did a whole industry day where we watched everyone's. What they do is they have in people from the industry, and we're talking like DreamWorks and Pixar and Disney
Jeez.
and video game companies like BioWare and Ubisoft. They have representatives from all of these companies come in, and they just show everybody's films or everybody's animations created by Justin Cerilli. It's backwards. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah,
But
you can read it.
so they show everybody's films, and then at the end of it, we just kind of hang out. It's really weird because we just sort of stand there at our computers, and they like walk around as if we're like products for them to consider purchasing.
Right,
And it's just
yeah.
like, they look at you and pass you by, and someone's like, "Hey, that was cool. Here's a card. Get in touch with us." And a lot of people got jobs that way. I got an offer for a place in Sudbury that way, which I didn't end up taking foolishly because I couldn't decide if I wanted to work in Sudbury.
Okay.
Which was like it could have been a big mistake because it's my very first job offer immediately after college, and I was like, oh my God, Sudbury, that's scary, and I don't know, and then I missed the opportunity.
What was it? Was it for like cartoons or was it for video games? Like what was it for?
It was for cartoons. It was for kids cartoons.
Okay.
So it was kind of a mistake the way I handled that because I just wasn't sure if I was ready, if I wanted to do that or not.
Right.
I thought maybe something better will come along. And luckily, a couple months later, something did. I ended up getting a job. Started in Oakville, and then the studio moved to Hamilton, and we were animating kids' cartoons. And I did that for a few years, 4
That's awesome.
years, I think.
What was the cartoon?
Which was so I did a bunch. It started with this one called The Adventures of Chuck and Friends, which is talking trucks that were learning lessons about life and being good friends to each other. It was meant
Right.
for like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. I did another one called Bubble Guppies, which was little talking mermaid children at the bottom of the ocean, learning lessons about being good friends and what cows are and things like that.
That's cool.
I did this other one. I actually think I have something ready for that. I can show you like some of my best work on this show.
Excited to see it.
What's really fun about this is we were allowed to be a bit silly. So I was still not a great animator, but I was getting better, and this show allowed us to just do silly things while kind of figuring out our style with it. This show was aimed at maybe slightly older kids, maybe 8 years old or 10 years old. It was meant to be goofy, but you'll see some of the humor. I'll play some of it now.
Okay.
Tell a story about this afterwards. So this is called Oh No, It's an Alien Invasion. That's the name of the show.
Okay.
So I animated this whole little segment. Everyone needs to do a little poopy.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're stuck in the sewers. This evil guy, Brainlius, he's trying to ruin their day always. Uh-oh. So this is why I was getting paid for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is him getting blasted away by by some gas. So again, this was the start of my career, was
Right.
this kind of stuff, which is really strange, but it was so much fun.
That's awesome.
So pay attention to these pickles here. You'll see in a second.
Okay.
It's going to be a big problem. Spoilers here. Sorry about that, by the way.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. It's Cootie Catcher.
Nate, we have a problem.
So how long would something like this take you to animate?
This was... Okay, I'm going to pause right here to tell a story about this specifically. Okay. Sorry, that took a little longer to get to than I remembered, but...
It's all good.
I forget exactly what it was, but it was maybe 20 to 30 seconds a week, if I remember, maybe more, of animation that we had to do. We would have basically every month we would have an episode to finish, and there'd be a bunch of animators on the team, and everyone has a certain chunk of the episode to animate. For comparison, something like a DreamWorks movie or Pixar, unless things have changed, but typically you'd be looking at like 6 seconds a week, maybe, of animation, of like finished, polished, really high quality animation a week. In comparison, in television, you're doing like 30 or 40.
And those are 8-hour days to make that.
Generally, yeah. There was definitely some overtime involved because, someone like me who was a little new to it couldn't work as fast as some of the more experienced guys. So I'd be trying to finish my episode, and then also getting notes on previous shots from like previous episodes. Or the director finally watches and says, "Hey, can you change this and change that?" So I'm working on basically 2 old shows to fix some notes, and then also my new one. So it kind of like it all kind of piles up quite a bit.
Right.
And so for someone who's kind of new, it can be hard to keep up sometimes. So sometimes I would stay a little bit late to try to finish stuff. So
when you get your scene, basically, are the voices already there, and you got to work the characters into the voices, or are you animating and then adding voices later? How does that sort of work?
Yeah, totally. So the voices, we have to animate to the voices, right? Because
the storyline and the voices are already there.
It's all done. They have storyboards, so they kind of draw things out. There's like sketches, so they draw out the whole show first,
right.
And then we kind of get it in that state where we see the sketches of what they want the show to be with the recorded dialogue, the voices,
right?
And we kind of put the show together based on that. So we're animating to the voices that are recorded already.
Okay.
Yeah. One little story I have about this is there's this shot here where they fly up and the pickles are bouncing. You see them. It's kind of like low quality, but you can see these pickles bouncing.
Yeah.
This was the hardest shot the shot I struggled the most with, because it kept coming back. Actually, 7 times I think it came back to me. Normally you get like 1 or 2 revision cycles.
Right.
This came back to me 7 times, and they said
what is a revision cycle?
So I say, I'm done. My lead says, looks good. We'll let the directors look at it. The director sends it back and says, hey, fix these things, please. I like it, but maybe fix these, make them look this way, or make that smile bigger, or whatever. And so I'll do the notes and send it back to the director, and maybe it'll come back one more time, and you say, okay, good, but just like adjust this a little bit. And normally by the second time, you're good.
Yeah.
So these pickles, 7 times, they came back to me, and every time the director was saying, hey, they're not bouncing right. Can you fix that?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'll try. And he was right. I don't know what I was doing, but they were like floating, and I was trying to like make them spin. And this is like the simplest thing to animate. It's something bouncing. It's
right.
A bouncing ball is the first thing you ever do. And this is just a pickle, and I couldn't do it. Eventually my lead was like, okay, let me just do it. Just forget about that. I'm going to do it. And he did the shot for me. So those aren't even my pickles.
Those aren't your pickles. Oh, man.
Those aren't my pickles. Ever since that day, everybody at the studio called me Pickles from that day on. And that name has followed me through my career. It still just comes up out of nowhere sometimes, because he'll like email, he'll find out who I'm working with, my old lead, and he'll email them and tell them to call me Pickles. So like, someone who's never met me before might call me Pickles out of nowhere.
That's awesome.
And it's hilarious. Yeah, it's my legacy.
So how long did you work doing the cartoon stuff?
The cartoon stuff I did for about 4 years. And what ended up happening was, as I was doing this whole pickle fiasco that I struggled with, I said, okay, I still want to be a better animator. I knew I wanted to work at Ubisoft, because by this time Ubisoft had opened a studio in Toronto. Right. And they were the only big game developer near home in Toronto. So I wanted to stay in Toronto and everything. So okay, I want to work at Ubisoft one day. I'm going to need to be a better animator for that to happen. Right. So while I was working, I also did online animation courses after work. So I would work all day, go home and do these online animation courses. And every weekend we would have reviews with our instructors and stuff. So I basically did more school while I was working.
That's awesome.
Because I wanted to get better. I knew I wasn't good enough to work at that level yet. So I did it and sacrificed many weekends doing it. And it was really challenging, but it was worth it, I think, for sure. Because there ended up being an opening at Ubisoft, right? And my lead knew somebody there, so they were talking, and they knew I was interested. So they asked me if I had a demo reel or something to show, because there's this opening. And I said, yes. Thank God, I've been doing this animation class after work. I have a demo reel ready. Here, check out my work. Here's my resume and all that. I was just ready. In a way, I was lucky that I was ready, but I dedicated myself to being ready for this. So this lucky opportunity came up, and they liked my stuff. Right. So I ended up getting a job at Ubisoft because of that. So I was still working here full time. I did kids cartoons for about 4 years. This opportunity came up, and I got a job at Ubisoft in 2014, I think. It's like awesome. The end of 2014, and I've just been there ever since, actually. So it was like, it was another situation where I was just kind of lucky that people I had worked, just like my instructor that got me into Sheridan, this job at Ubisoft kind of happened because people wanted to recommend me, and I was ready to show that I could do it. So it all kind of worked out. Yeah. So your first job, you walk in your first day for Ubisoft, and what happens? Mm-hmm. I freak out. Oh my God, this is hack. Because you don't understand, this was like 2010. I remember specifically 2010 was when they announced they were opening a studio in Toronto, because I just started at Sheridan. Right. And it's like, holy smokes, everything's coming into place here. Like this is it. And I was like, next year I'm going to finish Sheridan. I'm going to work at Ubisoft. Didn't happen, obviously. But I've been thinking about it for 4 or 5 years. Like that was my goal. That's what I had my sights set on. So I walk in, I'm like, oh my God, this actually happened. And for a moment I was like, now what? Like I did it, now what, right? And it was all really overwhelming, because they were also welcoming. They were like, here's your bag of chocolates to welcome you. Here's your Nerf gun to welcome you. They were still doing that. And here they give you a little buddy. Here's your buddy. If you ever have questions about anything, this person is designated to help you and answer your questions. So it was like immediately very welcoming, and they said, don't worry, take your time fitting in. We're gonna like slowly ramp you up and give you little easy things to do bit by bit. And it was really amazing. Actually, it was a really cool experience. I was so nervous that morning of, and by the end of the day I was like, yeah, I work for Ubisoft.
So what was the first thing that you worked on?
So I worked on Assassin's Creed Unity,
okay,
on some cinematics for that. I actually came in when they were trying to put some things together for E3. E3 is like a big gaming expo that happens every year where a bunch of companies reveal what they've been working on and show off their games and stuff. So they were trying to make something for E3. And actually, I think it was my second week, they needed to shoot a scene of someone getting thrown out a window. This is for Assassin's Creed. The assassins are supposed to throw this guy out a window. And there's a motion capture studio at Ubisoft Toronto.
Right.
Which is like, motion captures where like you put on the suits with all the little shiny balls on it, and it captures your movement, and then it goes into the video game. Right. So like, okay, we need to go downstairs and we need to quickly motion capture and shoot this one scene where we're throwing someone out a window just to test it and see if it works. And they're like, Justin, we need to get you into a suit. You need to help us with this. So I did that. And in the process of like grabbing this guy and throwing him, onto the mat or whatever, I sprained my thumb really, really badly. Like it was, It was just like, it was all purple and red and stuff around here. I couldn't move it, but I was too scared to say anything. I didn't tell her. I was at work in pain, just because I was afraid to tell someone I did that.
Right.
In my second week, I didn't know anyone well enough, and I didn't want anyone to get in trouble. So that made the start of my Ubisoft career a little challenging. It's this big injury I had to conceal. Eventually, it didn't matter. I told someone it didn't matter, but I felt so worried about it at first. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be like in Assassin's Creed. There's a guy throwing someone out the... And then at the same time, I completely injured my animating hand doing it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously from there, you've risen in the company over the last 6-7 years. I guess 2014.
Almost 6 years. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's about 6 years. So roughly.
So what has been like your jobs from then till where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I always, once I settled in to, this working at Ubisoft, I realized I had to keep setting goals for myself, right? That's how I got here in the first place, was I was always setting goals. Right. Basically from high school, I was setting my next goal. I want to get into Ryerson. I want to do this. I want to learn animation. I want to get into Sheridan. I want to become a better animator. I was always setting goals. So I knew that had to continue, right? You can't just get to a certain point and plateau.
That's awesome.
In your career. I don't think you should anyway, depending on what your career. Right? Yeah, of course. So I always sort of set these goals, and I knew my next goal was like to become more technical and learn more technical things, because I was always very interested in that side of game development. That's part of why I wanted to get into it, was the technical aspect of it. It's more than just creating an animation. It's like putting these pieces together to make something interactive, right?
Right.
So I wanted to learn that side of it, and I gradually did, bit by bit, learning. Once you're in that environment, it's very easy to talk to other people and learn from them.
That's awesome.
So I did a lot of that, and I did a lot of experimenting, and I still continue to do stuff at home all the time. I'm always trying to continue learning new things and keep up with like what the latest sort of knowledge and innovations are with the industry. And I guess that mindset has sort of led me to bigger opportunities within Ubisoft. I'm not a big hotshot or anything at Ubisoft. I'm one of many technical animators, but it's still allowed me to feel like I'm progressing in my career in a direction that I'm really passionate about.
So do you move up through job postings, or is it through your boss coming and telling you you have a new position, or how does that work?
For me, it's been a lot of just me doing the work I was interested in on top of my regular job.
Oh, fair enough.
So it was, so I was hired as an animator. My job was to animate, which I liked, but I started to like less as I became more passionate about the technical side of things. I realized I was even more driven by that.
Right.
So I would be doing my job, but then I would be learning programming stuff like Python scripting or something like that. And on the side, it'd be like, hey, I made this little script, or hey, I figured out this bug in the game that we were having problems with and we couldn't figure out. And I'd be doing these things on the side. And eventually they led to me getting actually assigned to do some of these things, right?
That's awesome.
So Justin can fix that. I let him do that. And then I was supposed to be doing those things, that I wasn't just doing them on the side. So it kind of like naturally evolved until I was just doing that stuff all the time. And I was like, hey, what do you think about like a job title change, since this is what I'm doing now? You know, maybe we can, you know, and eventually it just kind of worked out that way. It wasn't like I was trying to be sneaky about it. It's just I was trying to follow what I was becoming passionate about, and it kind of led me down that path naturally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you know, and it's just like they needed someone to do that stuff, and I was available and able to do it, and it just kind of progressed from there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for Justin? What's driving you now? What are your next goals?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, because I just talked about how important it is to have goals, and right now I'm in a place where I'm trying to figure out what my next set of goals are.
That's awesome.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been very fortunate, and I've gotten to a place that I'm very happy with my job and my career right now. And I don't know what the next big step is going to be, honestly. Right now, my goals are just to learn everything I possibly can about the technical animation side of things that I'm involved in, because there's so much to know and so much to learn that I'm just driven to keep learning that right now. And I don't know what my next big hurdle is, and it's something I need to maybe think about, but
that's awesome.
For now, I know I'm still driven, so
it's good to hear.
I'll get back to you.
Thanks. Yeah. So, any advice for kids right now who are going to be watching this, saying, "I want to be an animator. I want to work on video games, or I want to work on cartoons." Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to seem harder than you think at times, but that's normal, and it's always hard for everybody at first. I remember there's so many times throughout the process where I thought I hit a wall, and I was like, "This is it. I'm not good enough. It turns out this isn't for me. I don't have the skill." But as long as you keep pushing forward with it and keep learning and allow yourself to fail and struggle and know that there's more to learn, you can do it. And that's sort of been what's kept me going, is knowing that you need to give yourself time to improve and learn and grow. And I'm still doing that 10 years into my career now. I know that I still have to learn and grow. So yeah, don't be discouraged by the struggle, because everyone has to face it and go through it to make progress. So
that's awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on and doing Career Day with me. Everyone, make sure.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah! Check back every Friday for a new Career Day. Today was an amazing Career Day where we got way more than we ever expected. We got to see animation on animation. We really went through it this time, and honestly, this has been amazing for me, because I learned a ton that I actually didn't know as well. So I'm super pumped about it. I'm actually like smiling from ear to ear right now, because I'm like, this went way better than I could have ever expected. So thank you again for being on. Thank you for giving me advice. Hopefully someone sees this as a young person and it drives them, and they can get into it one day, and one day they'll be looking at you and saying, "Hey, I saw you on this dumb YouTube channel, and now I'm an animator because of you." So
that would be amazing. That would make me so happy if there was one person who followed their dreams because of this. That would be incredible.
Absolutely. All right. So that's Justin Cerilli, Technical Animator at Ubisoft.
Mm-hmm.
Take care, guys.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.